Hi, everybody. You are listening to Judging Meghan with your host, Meghan Judge. Today, I'm just going to tell the audience it's going to be a heavy episode. So I'm going to forewarn you, but I have been talking to this beautiful woman for the past few months, and her story struck me. It was all over the national news and in my small town outside of Los Angeles. So it hits home. I think for any parent, this episode is a must listen. For any person, it's a must listen. But I'm going to start really quickly by just introducing Jennifer Levy. Hi, Jen. Jennifer. Jen.
Hi.
What do you want me to call you? I forgot on the episode. Should I call you Jennifer? It's so formal. I feel like I want to call you Jen.
You can call me Jen. Let's keep it informal.
Okay. Hi, Jen. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for sharing the story. I know it's not going to be an easy one to share. Jen is a griever. She's an advocate for DUI awareness. She has also started the foundation in honor of her son, Braun, Like Braun Foundation. And welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's kind of one of those things where this is so fresh, right? What happened to you only happened a short, like 90 days ago, 100 days ago?
In May.
May
5th.
Okay. And so when I reached out to you, I said, are you sure you want to come on? Because this is really fresh and you're in the beginning stages of the grieving process. And you said, you know what? This is what I want to do. This is part of how I'm going to deal with the loss of my son. And I think what you're doing is so, so important. And I told you before we started recording that I very much so believe in signs. I feel them. I see them all the time for the people I've lost that I've told you about. And I've been doing this podcast for 5 years. And I think I've done maybe one other episode about DUI awareness, or I interviewed somebody that had was drunk driving and killed someone and spent 20 years in prison. And so he did his time, and now he teaches students about the awareness and not getting behind the wheel, right?
That's fantastic.
Which is awesome. So shout out to Martin Lockett. But I don't really get people applying, talking about DUI awareness or being in accidents. And so I ended up getting an email I think it was the day after I talked to you, from a lady. And she said, my family got into this horrific drunk driving accident. This episode came out a couple of weeks ago, and she said her son survived, but they were hit by a drunk driver, and it was kind of like the person got off, and it was really horrifically awful. And then I read her bio and I interviewed her, and I went, there's something here. Like, there's a reason why this person reached out to me. And knowing that I had just talked to you the day before, I just really felt like that was some kind of sign, maybe from your son, to say, like, you're supposed to talk to my mom. This is supposed to happen. This awareness, these stories of people dying and this continuing to happen and hitting families like yours so horrifically hard. So I just wanted to tell you that before we started, because I thought, this can't just be a coincidence.
Well, you know what they say, there's no coincidences.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to believe that.
Well, I think that I believe that too. There's too many. I've been doing this 5 years, and the stories and the signs that people tell me about their loved ones and knowing that they're there, there's no way that some of these things would happen if they weren't with us. And I like to say they're just in the next room. So I'm just going to start with, tell me a little bit about you and your family and a little bit about Braun.
Well, my family consists of my husband, Dan, our older daughter, Adele, who's a junior in college, and Braun. And we lived in Pacific Palisades starting in 2003. We raised both of our children there. We had a Storybook 20 years. Our kids grew up to be happy, productive, energetic, involved, social kids. And that was our goal, right? To raise children who can give back to society and be a part of society, and a good part. And so we had 20 really storybook years. I mean, no drama. I am not feel sorry for me or have a lot of hardships. There were none. It was 20 great years, and it came to a crashing close when the wildfires started on January 6th.
So tell me a little bit about, I have several friends that also lost their homes. And if you're listening, I'm sure you're aware of what happened in Los Angeles, even if you're in another country. But these horrific wildfires hit the Palisades community and another portion, Altadena, and basically burnt the community to the ground, parts of Malibu. And it was in the history of Los Angeles, I've lived here 25, I don't even know how many years now. There was nothing like it, right?
It was a blowtorch that was taken to our city.
And so that happened. And then all of the people that lived in the community that lost their homes, and even people that didn't live even people that lived in the community that lost their homes, there was nothing there. I mean, their house could still be standing. I have friends, like I'm sure you do, that still have homes, but there's no restaurants there. So it's kind of like a ghost town. So everybody had to relocate and find homes within the Los Angeles area. If you live and worked here, some people left and moved out of state. So tell me why Manhattan Beach, because you picked kind of to live in Manhattan Beach.
Right. Well, we have a really close-knit community in Pacific Palisades that we built starting when we were pregnant. So we have a group of about 20 families, and we're our chosen family. These friendships with all of our kids, they are like siblings. And collectively, I would say a group of about 20 families just said, well, let's move to something similar to the Palisades, which is the South Bay, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach. It's a beach community. And also many of our children went to Loyola High School or Marymount High School, where a lot of their friends already lived in Manhattan Beach. So it was a natural place to go. And I have to say, when we got here, the community was so welcoming, and Braun was having so much fun because he was playing beach volleyball every day after school with his friends from Manhattan Beach, with his friends from the Palisades. Everyone was in one place. And, he was so happy considering the situation.
So you're still in this horrible grieving process even though it's a home. I talked to several of my friends that I've either made that have moved here, or a couple that I was already friends with, and it's grief in itself, right? Even though it's your home, and it's things, it's still part of who you are, right? And so to have to pick up, especially for kids, and start over must have been so hard.
It was really hard. It was really sad, but from the start, I'd say after about the first 3 or 4 days when the shock wore off, my family took the attitude of, it's just things. We are all safe. We're together. We're going to make the best of it, and we're going to rebuild our lives. And even Braun took that attitude. He started a club at school for displaced victims. He got everyone together on the volleyball court, which has now been named Braun's Court. We just kind of had this attitude a week or two into it. Well, we're just going to make the best of this, and we're safe, and we're together, and that's all that matters.
And so a few months later, right, he was in his senior year of high school. Braun, and I know all of this because if you're listening, much of this, not only because I'm local and I live in Manhattan Beach, so I know exactly where this happened, but it was all over the national news. Okay. So it's everybody in our town, surrounding towns. It was recently, the story was, you went to the US Open in his memory. So Braun, I told you this when I first talked to you, when I saw what had happened to you all, it just I saw his picture and I just went, this kid is really special. And he looked like he just lit up a room. Like if people want to follow you on Instagram, what's your Instagram?
Well, there's the Live Like Braun Foundation Instagram site, and that has a lot of stories about Braun. We build stories or posts, and we call them the Bronicles, which are, funny stories of his childhood and who he was as a young adult in high school. And then my personal is Jen Levy 2016.
Okay. So if you follow, like I follow you on Instagram and I think I did that night, even that next day, and I saw his face, and it's one of those people that you see and they just light up a whole room and laughing and smiling. And then I've heard so many stories from local people that I know that knew him, and they say what a wonderful, wonderful person he was. And so it makes me think, and I believe this, sometimes they're like not of this world. My best friend that I lost, I think I told you, she was like that. I was struck immediately by seeing his picture and hearing all the stories about what a wonderful kid he was. And also on his way to go to University of Virginia and going on the pro tennis circuit, correct?
Pro tennis circuit is stretching it a little bit.
Okay. So he was that's hearsay. That's what I heard. Okay. So tell me a little bit.
He was a phenomenal tennis player, one of the most decorated tennis players ever at Loyola High School. And he was headed to University of Virginia, and his dream was to play tennis there. And he was so excited. He was so excited to go to college. But by the way, Braun was so excited about everything. And that's what made him so special. He walked in the room and everyone was happy to see him. He just kind of brightened the room. He brightened the space, the situation. Everything was exciting to him. And part of that's a little bit earnest. And part of that is just a little bit the way he was born. And, he had the white blonde hair and the sparkly blue eyes to go with it and the whole thing together. And he was really big, he was like 6'3". And so this whole package together just made him this force. And everyone felt it. And the special thing about Braun is, we are so proud of him academically and athletically. He soared. But what we're most proud of is the way he treated everybody and the stories that we're getting from people we don't even know that he knew and from teachers and from classmates. It just breaks my heart that a person like this was taken from our world, because the world needs people like Braun.
Yeah, especially now. Okay, so we're going to kind of go into the night and what kind of transpired and what happened. So can you tell me a little bit about that night? And did you see him? Was there something that you said that you got to say that night before you saw him? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that night, actually, that day he was here at the house watching the Kentucky Derby with his friend Crowley and taking a nap. And then they just left to go about their evening, which is what happens here in the South Bay. You walk everywhere. They just left, and I said, "Where are you going?" I called him, and he said, "I'm going to a friend's house for a burger and hot tub." So did I ever look at him and say, "Goodbye, I love you"? No, but I had no regrets, because I told him every day of his life I loved him. And I was home every single day when he got home from school. And I often say, even if it was just a grunt before he went in his room and, started studying or went to tennis practice. And I was at every athletic event of his whole life. So that's one thing I can proudly say, is that he knew he was loved. I don't have any regrets.
And that's
the way I raised him.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're lucky that he knew that, because I think a lot of times parents forget to tell their kids. So it's a reminder to always tell your kids what they mean to you. So he took off for the night with his friends to go to somebody's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
His house, burgers, hot tub, whatever. He was 18, just shy of 19. So, but what I always did is I had my children on Life 360, and around 12 or 12:15, I would look and see where they are. So at 12:15, I looked and I saw he was at his friend's house, and I texted him time to come home, start thinking about getting her Uber or walking home. That's what they did. So he walked home. I didn't realize that they were going to be crossing Sepulveda. And I think that's something that kids do around here all the time. But he was with a big group of kids crossing the street, and he was the last one. And he got struck and killed instantly by a drunk driver, alleged drunk driver.
Okay, so just so the listeners know, Sepulveda is a very busy street in that it stretches. It's the Pacific Coast Highway, turns into Sepulveda through like Hermosa, Manhattan, starts, I think, at El Segundo, and people drive very fast on this street. And I've even been guilty. Like, I had a kid going to Miracosta last year. Now she's at Bishop, and I would fly up the street to go, like you don't really think about it because people drive so fast. And there are teenagers that are always crossing that street.
And then add alcohol to it.
And then add alcohol to it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to give the listeners an idea. There's been multiple drunk driving accidents and deaths of young kids and people within the past, I would say, several years.
Yeah. So Braun was crossing the street to go home because that was what they thought was the safe thing to do. And he was hit and killed instantly by an alleged drunk driver, a woman who had a previous DUI, but had made a plea. She had a previous DUI, but made a plea deal for a misdemeanor hit and run. She had a suspended license, no car insurance. And she took our son's life. She killed him.
Okay. And so this case is clearly pending for listeners, so we can't really go into that piece of it. But tell me about his friends. How many friends was he with? So he was the last one to cross. There were still kids at the house hanging out. Yeah.
He left, I don't know, to get food, to go home. That's what the kids do. They walk home, they stop eating food. He was with a group of boys. Too painful for me to talk to those boys. Yeah. And I'm sure they are suffering trauma too, because Braun was the last one. They were all ahead of him. They heard it and they turned around.
Okay. And so then were you called? What ended up happening? Was he transported to the hospital? Did the driver stay at the scene? This is the part where I say it's every parent's worst nightmare. We got a call at maybe 12:40 in the morning that there had been an accident or someone was hit by a car. Head to the Harbor Trauma Center. And we were confused. We got dressed quickly. My husband, who is a pediatric cardiologist, he's a doctor. We looked at each other, and I think without saying anything, we both knew he died instantly. Our daughter had been involved in an e-bike accident when she was in high school. Here in the South Bay. And when the police called us, they said, everything's fine. She's fine. She's on her way to the hospital. And that phone call didn't start with, everything's fine. It was just, he's been hit by a car. We don't know details. Go to Harbor Trauma Center. There was nothing they could do. By the time we got to the hospital, he was long gone. And so you knew driving to the hospital what was about to happen. And then my question is,
we in our hearts knew.
Yeah.
And we got a phone call, and then halfway through our drive from the police officer, and he said, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but your son didn't make it. And it's absolute shock. And
so what did you end up doing after that?
We had to go to the hospital and identify his body. And I don't really remember much else. I mean, they didn't show us much of his body.
Okay.
Because it was a bad accident.
Yeah. So the driver, obviously you found out shortly thereafter what had happened.
She immediately was put in jail. And she was in jail for a month. And then she was released due to overcrowding. That's what I've been told.
Okay. So for
and
all
the reason she's not back in prison is because she has not officially been pressed with a charge or arrested, because it's an ongoing investigation. And it takes a long time. It takes a really long time to have these investigations be completed. And we do have faith in our DA, Nathan Hoffman, and our deputy DA who's been assigned the case. We have faith in them that they are working very hard to make sure justice is served.
Yeah, Nathan Hoffman's doing a great job. So I'm glad to hear that you do. But the pain of walking around knowing that it's like double the pain of everything that you've already been through, the loss of the house, the loss of Braun instantly, and then dealing with that. I have to ask you, which I asked you when we spoke a month and a half ago, how you're able to like get up every day. I mean, there's so many people that sadly in our country lose children to losses of drunk driving or fentanyl overdoses or all the things that people, or shootings, all the things that parents have to go through losing a child. My question to you is, how do you get up and do this, and what you're doing and all the things you're doing to spread awareness? I don't know if I could have been. I mean, I guess you don't have a choice, right? Is not to answer the question for you.
You do have a choice, actually. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's suffering grief has a choice of how they're going to let grief shape them. From the very start, my husband works at UCLA as a doctor. He sees life and death. He sees children dying. It tears families apart. From the start, my husband and I looked at each other and we said, this is not going to tear us apart. This is not going to break us. We are not going to be victims to this. We have a beautiful 20-year-old daughter with a phenomenal future ahead of her. We are not going to, destroy her. So from the very first moment, my husband and I said, we are not going to let this destroy us. This is not what Braun would want. And the Live Like Braun actually came through our bodies within the first 24 hours of him being killed. Braun wouldn't want us in bed not living our life. Braun wouldn't want us not able to function. That wasn't who Braun was, and that's not how we raised our children. And, I was really adamant in the beginning by saying, I'm not going to let grief shape me into being a victim. And I can't, the only way I can live through this is to make change and to talk to other people and not let Braun's legacy die.
Well, so tell me a little bit about the foundation. I'm going to hold up the hat right now that I love. We have a yellow one and a blue one, and my husband was wearing the blue one the other day. And it makes me smile every time I see someone wearing it. You kind of want to ask people, and I didn't even know him, like I said, but every time I see someone in town wearing it, I go, oh, I wonder, like, did they know him? You want to know. I know, but I feel like odd asking, but it's kind of this special bond. I want you to know, honestly, I think I told you this and Mia, that I saw a lady running and you laughed. You were like, that wasn't me. And I smiled at her because I was so close to saying, did you know him? Do you know them? It's this kind of bond that people feel when you see somebody wearing the hat. I want you to know that.
It is. It happens at airports too. I'm like a walking billboard for Braun at an airport. I'll always wear my Braun hat. And people always stop me, and I usually have hats in my bag, and just for stopping and talking to me and saying hi, and I didn't know him, I wish I knew him, or I knew him, or anything, I always give them a hat from my bag and say, just keep the message, keep the movement moving forward. And the foundation was created to, one, inspire people to live like Braun, not let his legacy die, and to, two, raise money so that we can give academic scholarships to kids who live like Braun, kids who have passions. And I've said it before, it doesn't have to be a 4-year post-grad program. It can be a vocational school, community college. a trade school, something, as long as they're passionate about it. I am so excited now that we've raised money to start giving out scholarships to kids who are really living their life and following their passion, because that's how Braun lived.
Can you tell me tell me about what does it mean to live like Braun? So do you look at essays? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, to live like Braun is to be many things. A little bit mischievous. He was very, very bright. He threw himself into school. He threw himself into tennis and sports. He gave everything 110%. He took risks. He did things that felt uncomfortable. He went out of his comfort zone all the time. And he always seemed to have an intuition or an eye for someone that needed bringing in, somebody that needed a little encouragement, somebody that needed some kindness. And he was always able to deliver that in any situation. He was just a great kid. It's just, talking about it just breaks my heart that he's not here.
Yeah. Jen, I want you to know that it breaks my heart that he's not here too. And I think everybody feels that way. It just in the community, everybody talks about how special he was. And I think I told you when we first talked that I lost my best friend really tragically in my 20s. And when I go back to DC, nobody has a bad thing to say about Julie. And I felt robbed, and she was obviously not my child, and there's no pain like losing a child, everybody says. But I know what kind of person he seemed to be just by watching videos. Or, you posted something, I think like a week ago, and it was a video of him doing like break dancing or something at his preschool. Yeah, he was like singing with all his little preschool friends. And I just thought of you, and I thought how hard that would be to have a child so special and lit up the room the way that he did. When people leave an impact on the world or the country, or even at UVA, he's not even there yet. And I saw you post something that they have something in tribute to him.
They painted the bridge wall.
Yeah.
Like Braun.
So I want to ask you, you must be looking for signs. I talk a lot about signs on the podcast. My sign that I know that Julie's with me is the monarch butterfly. And sometimes I see them when I really, really need them. And I'm such a weirdo. I talk to them sometimes in my backyard.
I do too. Well, they say butterflies, dolphins, rainbows, dragonflies, shiny pennies that show up or are given to you for no reason. Are signs, and I have to believe in that. I have had a few that I don't think are coincidences, but what I really truly feel is that Braun is guiding me through grief, through the actions of other people, through the kindness that people have shown us, through the foundation's work and the people we've met, and strangers coming up to me who see the Live Like Braun hat and want to talk to me or give me love or tell me their story about how they lost a friend in high school to a drunk driver. I really feel like the biggest sign, he has to be guiding me through grief with the actions of other people. I'm not sure how to explain it. It's just something I feel. I have a lot of vivid dreams, and I've been told that those are visits from the other side. And I love getting those dreams. I don't always understand them, but I love them and they make me sad.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the foundation, like going back to the foundation? When we spoke initially, you told me that you've gone to Washington, correct?
So I went to Washington, D.C. with MAD.
Okay.
And MAD is a 501c3, different from the Live Like Braun Foundation. So I joined MAD.
So Mothers Against Drunk Drivers for
Mothers
listeners.
Against Drunk Driving. It's their 45th anniversary this year. And I went to Capitol Hill as a California victim advocate. There's something called the HALT Act, which will require cars to put the AI technology so that when you put your hands on the wheel, you look forward, you breathe, they'll know if you're impaired and it immediately will not start the car. This has been passed. It's been around for a few years, but no one has enforced the auto industry to implement it.
So is there anything coming up as far as that happening, or is it just we're waiting to see?
We were there talking to assemblymen to try to help push the HALT Act onto the automakers. And the safety standards have now changed. At one point, everyone was buying their kids Subarus or Volkswagens because they had the safest, 5-star safest rating. In order to get that now, you have to have that technology in your car. So I am really praying and hoping that new cars will all have this technology. That the technology exists. We just have to implement it. And it could have saved Braun's life. It could have saved a lot of lives.
Yeah. Did you find comfort or anything out of that, going and being around parents that have dealt with a similar situation?
It was such a mixed bag. On one hand, I was grateful because there are a lot of people who've lost their children to drunk drivers or who are victims. But everyone that was there with me is of the same mindset that we're going to take action. We're going to not be victims to this. We are going to take action. And what also really shocked me when I was there is I never thought about victims. There were a lot of people in wheelchairs, adults in wheelchairs, because they were hit by a drunk driver. And I never thought of that. For some reason, I just thought people die. I didn't think of all the people that are living in wheelchairs or constant pain or metal all over their body or, brain damage. It's horrific. There's no reason in 2025 that we don't have the technology in cars to stop this.
I agree. And I also think I wish there was a way just to get people to think twice, before getting behind the wheel of a car, even if you've had two, talking to Christine, the mother that I spoke to on a past episode a few weeks ago. It was a miracle that her son lived. It was a miracle that he lived. And she talks a lot about the fact that the person that hit her son got away with it. And finally, after a year, is serving time. So that gave her peace of mind. But I just wonder how many people does it need to take for our government to take action? Because this is a very easy fix here, right? And it's got to be so frustrating and so upsetting for all the survivors and people that are fighting for this, because Mothers Against Drunk Drivers has been around for as long as I can remember. You said 45 years?
45 years.
Yeah. So I just hope if you're listening to this and you get behind the wheel of a car, think twice. I said that's the last episode, like I talked about in the beginning of the episode, Martin Lockett, who, openly shares his story, served 20 years of his life. His biggest regret of his life is that he killed someone, and he has to live with that for the rest of his life. And it ruined his whole life. So, what is the biggest takeaway that you think you could share with my listeners right now about the foundation and what you're trying to do?
Our foundation is trying to make the world a better place. I mean that's broad, right? So our foundation is trying to do good in the world. We don't want to sit in a negative space. We want to give scholarships to kids who need it. We want to help rebuild recreation centers in Altadena and places affected by natural disasters. We want to help inspire kids to live their best lives. And I think the best way we can do that is by helping them financially so that they can afford to go to their dream school and fulfill their dream. Because Braun had a lot of dreams. He had so many dreams. And we always said, go for it. And so the foundation exists to keep his name and legacy alive, to help other teenagers go on to live their best lives by providing them with the assistance they need for their academic dreams.
Have you given a scholarship yet? I mean, I know it's so soon, or are you in the process of weeding out people and essays and all of that stuff? I would love to know that.
Yes. And we're also giving to other, we're also giving to other 501c3s that, need financial help. Braun was a counselor at RAD camp for kids with Down syndrome. He absolutely loved that camp. So our foundation would love to help out RAD camp. They made such a big difference in Braun's life. So we are about to announce our first few scholarships and our first few grants. We're working on it. We're taking our time. We're having integrity. We're making sure that everything feels organic and makes sense. But kids will be graduating this spring, and so that'll be around the time where we start announcing who's receiving the Live Like Braun scholarships. And we also endowed a scholarship at Loyola High School called the Live Like Braun. We also endowed a scholarship at Loyola High School called the Braun Levi Scholarship, and that's for current high schoolers who need financial assistance. So there's two different ways that we're offering assistance.
That's amazing. Can you tell me and my listeners how they can donate, how they can get involved, how they can get one of these amazing hats or sweatshirts or T-shirts? I love the sun. It's such a great hat. So tell me, the logo's great. It makes you happy when you see it. Walk it, like I said.
That's the point.
Yeah. So tell my listeners where they can find you and the foundation.
You can go online, www.livelikebraunfoundation.org. And on that webpage, you will see Braun's story, pictures about Braun, all the press that we've done to honor Braun. There's a merch page where you can buy Live Like Braun merch, wear it proudly, spread the movement. It's now trickled on to college campuses. It's becoming a wave of a movement on college campuses. And it just makes me so happy to see people celebrate Braun and try to live their best lives. If we can just touch one person who does something different or changes their life for the better, then we've hit our goal, right? I mean, it's the best you can hope for.
Well, I can just tell you've touched more than one person, because
I hope so.
Like I feel like your son was so special. Everybody talks about him. Like I said in the beginning, it's almost like he wasn't of this world or of this, he was supposed to be somewhere else. And I think he just symbolized the sunshine on the hat. He had that white blonde hair. He was so handsome and laughing and smiling in all the pictures and videos.
It'll never make sense. I ask myself every day why, and I can't, because I'm never going to have that answer.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, I just want you to know that the fact that you're doing this, you're helping so many people. And for my listeners right now, I guarantee there's somebody out there that maybe lost a child and they're listening and they don't know where to turn, or they're in the beginning stages of grief. And you're helping somebody just by sharing his story, just by being here, just by sitting with me for this hour. I really can't thank you enough, because it's really, really an important message that you're sharing with people. And the fact that you created such a beautiful human being, you should be so proud.
I am proud. I'm very proud of Braun, but I'm also, destroyed.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest message for grievers is you have to decide how you're going to live, how you're going to shape your grief.
Yeah.
And every day looks different. But for me, being an advocate and promoting Live Like Braun Foundation and keeping his legacy alive, it keeps me alive.
Well, thank you for doing everything you're doing. And Jen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Meg.
Everyone, please, can you say your social media and the website again one last time?
The website is www.livelikebraun.foundation.org. And on Instagram, it's Live Like Braun Foundation.
And I just want you to know that you're doing the right thing. I didn't obviously know him, but he's got to be smiling down at his mom and his sister and his dad, and so proud of his family for what they're doing in his honor. So everyone, thank you for listening. Please donate if you can or get involved. This again should never have happened. This was a senseless act. It was a senseless thing that this shouldn't be happening. 45 years. It's wrong. It's despicable that we're still dealing with this. Call your congressman, right? Call your assemblyman. Get involved. This is something that we all have the ability to make changes and use our voices. And it's really, really important. So in closing, you matter, your story matters. Keep going.
Thank you so much, Meghan. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.